Jett has been my main agent for over a year now, and during that time, I got into the top 0.1% of players. Playing Jett correctly isn't an easy task, but I believe that you can do it successfully as well if you just follow the tips in this video. The most common mistake I see Jett and other duelist mains do is being afraid of dying. Dying is, believe it or not, actually irrelevant to if you're doing good or not. You'll have games where you have 20 deaths and others with 10 deaths. Having less doesn't mean that you're doing better. It can in fact mean the opposite sometimes. Playing Jett, your main goal should be creating space and ideally getting entry frags. You want to be the one going first and drawing all the attention to you when your team is pushing a site. If you can successfully get the enemies off of their positions and instead looking at you, allowing your teammates to enter the site safely, then you've done your job. Add on top of that a kill or two and you can call it a success. This means, however, that you will sometimes end up dying very quickly, and even if that's for the better, it can still be very frustrating. But don't let this get to you. Remember that your goal is to create space, and also remember that it's the impact that matters, not the stats. You can bait your team every round and get great stats, but it doesn't mean that you're the best performing player. In the same way, if you consistently can get the first blood that lets your team take over the site, but you end up with a bit more deaths than your other teammates, that doesn't take away from the impact you've had. But to successfully get entry frags, you should be practicing on the best way to enter sites. Because of Jett's dash and updraft, that makes her arguably the most mobile agent in the game. So to take advantage of that, you want to find some ways to utilize her mobility. My rate of first bloods increased dramatically when I started to try out new ways to push the site. This can be going right in with a simple smoke and dash, or updrafting combined with a dash onto a box to get behind enemy lines as well as get the high ground. Being focused on improving your ability to entry in any way possible is crucial as a Jett main. A great way of doing this is by watching pro or high level Jett players to see how they're entry fragging and try that out. Another thing to keep in mind when entering is that you should be trying to clear as much of the site as possible while dashing. This can be pretty hard at first to get good at, and I didn't learn this until way later than I should have, but if you start practicing this skill early, it'll definitely help out. Just flicking and clearing a single corner when dashing in is a big improvement from looking straight ahead. If you do this quickly, it's going to give you free information without any added risk. Because you're in the air, the enemy probably won't have time to hit you, and even if you do catch a bullet, the information this gives your teammates is huge and will allow them to run out after you and clear that corner for good. If you're not already getting information while dashing, then start doing that. I mentioned that smokes can be used for dashing in, and that's a very common way to use them, but there are a lot more ways to take advantage of your smokes. A mistake I see Jett players often make is that they're afraid of using their smokes. You don't have to and shouldn't be waiting for the perfect opportunity to get value out of your smokes. Simply using them to be able to safely cross in spots like A Haven or A Icebox is a great way to use a smoke. This both limits information so the enemies can't see how many people passed, and it also gets you free passage to go over to the sites. Because Jett smokes don't last that long and can't be placed anywhere like other smokes, some great ways of using them are guaranteeing yours or your team's safety by smoking a choke point, using them as one-ways in a pinch, or to guarantee a plant. You really don't want to be holding onto your smokes for too long. And if you feel unsure of whether you should or shouldn't use one in a pinch, it's generally better to use one than not to. Something a lot of players don't know is that you actually travel further by jumping right before dashing or updrafting. You might find that some ways to entry can be pretty hard, but doing this easy trick will make you dash longer and updraft higher, which is necessary if you want to be able to do the best entries. A lot of people already do this unconsciously, but when you learn this, you can put it into use in many different ways other than entering. For example, if you want to updraft over a wall when ulting, you can jump right before to save an updraft and to get up quicker. These small tricks all add up, so the more ones you know, the better of a Jett player you'll be. Let's move on to Jett's biggest advantage, which is her mobility, and allows her to be played from pretty much anywhere. Now, she did get nerfed recently, and that changes this a bit, but you can still hold unexpected angles. It just requires a bit more planning. One of the easiest ways to get kills with Jett is by playing off angles. Instead of holding the more common angle, you might for example be a bit further forward. Start playing in more unexpected positions to take advantage of your mobility. This can be combined with an operator to very quickly get the kill and fall back. Because most people's movement and crosser placement sucks, this will 9 times out of 10 catch the enemy off guard, and then it's just up to you to hit your shot. To be able to take full advantage of off angles and your mobility, you also want to constantly switch up where you play. It's way easier to catch enemies off guard if you're one round B and the next round A. I wouldn't advise switching every round, but after a few rounds of successfully getting kills in one spot, you can move over to the next site. You gotta make sure to call this with your team though. And here's where you can get tricky, because sometimes you'll have teammates less willing to cooperate, and that's when you gotta look at it objectively to see if the risk outweighs the reward. If you're playing B with one other teammate, can that person hold B on their own for a round while you go A? Sometimes all you need is a quick peek on a site to get the kill, and then you can fall back to where you came from. You get better at knowing when to do this with time, but remember to always stay unpredictable with Jett, and especially when opping. It can be very hard to hit your shots with the op, so to get better at that, watch my operator guide that's on screen right now. See you there.